I've been thinking a lot recently about value for products, not just the case of the original market when something is released, but the second-hand market and how we as collectors view our collections. Now, I have no doubt there are some of you out there that focus on the value of certain titles. I've done it myself and guilty of this. Where does the perceived value in these titles come from? One of the biggest misses I had in my collection that I had to because of my completist nature that I have, was the late Mizoguchi set. That thing goes for crazy prices. It still goes for an exuberant price. What is the value for it? The value of something is what somebody is willing to pay for it. But is that value evergreen? Is it always going to hold that value? If you have a bottle of fine wine, it's valued at, I don't know, several thousand. Prices are going to go up as it ages. When you have a Blu-ray, a limited edition set of something, it's only as valuable as what someone is willing to pay for it, and the market will fluctuate. You have these Shaw Brother titles, for instance, that are going for 80, 90, £100 DVDs on the secondary market. Arrow announced the Shaw Brothers set, and the value of these things are just wiped out. They're no longer valuable. And if you've been clutching onto something going, I am going to keep this because it's worth this much, if you're not willing to part with it, if you're not going to sell it, what's the point? Is it worth anything at all? Is there a perceived prestige we put on titles because of this value that seems to be out there? And what if someone releases a new edition, a 4K edition, a better edition of something that's much, much cheaper, much, much more readily available, has most of the same extras, has the films and the better treatment, something that you've been clutching onto, something that we've been heralding as so valuable, suddenly becomes worthless. And I can guarantee that quite a lot of us collectors will look at that product with disdain, disgust, looking at something that we've clutched and held on to, hoping that we were going to get some quick rich scheme by selling our Blu-rays that we would never have done in the first place, but putting this perceived value onto our collection. It's a mindset that's, well, it's crazy. It really is crazy. It's not something valuable you have. It's only valuable because others want it. And if that want goes away, you're left with something that is worth nothing. So we should be focusing on our collections, looking at a title and going, do I have this because I want it? I'm going to use it. It's important to me. Do I have it because it's limited? It's something that I wanted to have in my collection. Having used it, it's not the be all end all, and I'd be happy to part with it, facilitating more money to buy more things. Or am I going to clutch, hoard and hold on to that item, hoping that it's for some reason down the line it's going to be worth some exuberant amount of money that we would never sell it for in the first place? It's a crazy mindset. And as I was at work today doing my monotonous, repetitive tasks, I suddenly had this revelation going, well, really, what makes something worth that kind of value, and how secure is that value? The answer is not very. There will always be some titles that hold on that are never released, but as we move more into the boutiques, as we move more into physical media becoming a kind of niche market, there are always going to be titles being released that were once forgotten, that we held on to these discs thinking that they were something they were not. Fool's Gold comes to mind quite a lot when I've been thinking about this one. The perceived value of limited editions is a fool's game. If you want something in your collection because it's a movie you love, you've validated that purchase. If you have something in your collection because you think it's going to be worth money and you'll be able to shift it on in a year or so, you're denying somebody of getting something that they want, and you're falling into the trap that a lot of collectors fall into. It's the want, not the need. I want to have that, not because I want the product, but because I just want to have the prestige in owning something with that perceived value, rather than I want to own this because, you know what, it's a great edition of a movie I love that I need to have in my collection. It all comes down to curation once again. Something only has value if you're willing to part with it. Other than that, it's not really worth much more than just, a piece of plastic in your collection, which you paid some money for, that you're quite happy to have spent a certain amount of money for. I feel as though this is something that I'm going to struggle to go over. It's a hill that I have still to reach the summit of, still to get to the top of going, you know what, I should pass that on. I should sell it on to someone that needs and wants it, rather than me hoarding and keeping it just because of some arbitrary number that has been deemed by someone out there in the ether. It's a silly mentality to be in. It's a strange mentality to be in. It's not gold. It's just shiny, and we like shiny things. I'd love to know what you think of perceived value. What do you think, or what is the most expensive title in your collection? Is it a movie you love? And is it something you'd part with if someone had the right amount of cash? Let me know in the comment box, and I'll see you next time on Man v Film.